thanks for joining us again for another Facebook Live here at the Virginia Liver Museum. My name is Patricia. I'm the aquarium curator here at the museum. Thanks for joining us for our Earth Day Festival celebration. Today we're going to kind of be looking at some living fossils, or living dinosaurs even. These are horseshoe crabs that we were looking at. We're doing living fossils to kind of coincide with our Nevermore dinosaur poetry contest. So thanks for joining. So what we have, we're at our touch tank exhibit, and we've got some horseshoe crabs here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pipe in and my camera woman will ask away. So we have an adult horseshoe crab here. They're very cool, interesting looking crabs. A lot of times people think they are stingrays because of their shape, but they are actually horseshoe crabs, and they're more closely related to arachnids like spiders and stingrays than actual crabs. So I'm going to flip this guy over, and you can see his underside. This is the underside of the horseshoe crab, what most people don't see, and this is a male. As you can see, he's already pushing his claws towards his mouth there in the center, begging for food. He's used to being picked up. We have a question already?
Do our horseshoe crabs have names?
Our horseshoe crabs do not have names, I'm sorry to say. Go ahead.
Kate, age 6, would like to know what are their predators.
So that's a good question. Actually, there's not a lot that are their predators as adult crabs, except for maybe people. But as young, when adult horseshoe crabs meet together to spawn, a lot of shorebirds eat their eggs in mass. And then when they molt and they're soft, they're vulnerable to be eaten by turtles, other crabs, and so forth, and shorebirds, even the occasional raccoon. So I'm actually feeding them what's called a gel diet that we cut up into small squares, and I just put it right there on his mouth, and he uses his claws to push the food down. This guy's obviously hungry. So I have a male here. The way you can tell mostly is this front claw here looks kind of like a boxing glove, whereas if it were a female, she'd just have another set of these pinchy claws. And as you can see, she's trying to pinch me, push me away. It doesn't hurt in the slightest, or rather he, sorry. It's just kind of a little tickle actually. So here we have some book flap gills. They kind of look like pages in a book. Those are their gills, and their tail is used just to kind of, for locomotion. It helps flip them back over. So I'm gonna flip him over, let him go again, and we'll get another one to feed.
Aiden, age 6, would like to know how old is he?
So that's a good question, Aiden. I don't really know how old they are. We actually get them from Woods Hole Oceanic Institute up in Woods Hole, Massachusetts. Excuse me. And they're already adults at that time, so I don't really know. I can tell you that they live to be about 20 years old.
Evelyn, age 6, would like to know how many babies do horseshoe crabs have at one time?
That's a really good question. So they can lay up to 200 to 300 eggs at one time, which is a lot. That's really cool. So we got another male going to town eating here. Horseshoe crabs are interesting. The reason they're known for being living fossils is because they have been unchanged for over 250 million years. So they would not have really changed, adapted to any kind of other environmental needs for that long. So that's why they're kind of living fossils.
Tyler would like to know how many horseshoe crabs we have.
That's a good question, Tyler. So we have, looks like 4 big ones here up front, and then we have 4 juveniles in the back, and I can show them to you in a moment. So we have 8.
McKenna, age 6, would like to know if their tail is spiky.
Their tail is like, it's one spike. It's not spiky per se. It can't do anything to you really, unless you were to actually just like jab it into your hand, but otherwise it's not spiky at all. also, these guys actually are carrying friends around. So these are the eyes up front here. And then these extra shells here are what's called slipper shells. They're actually a type of snail. And they just kind of hitch on for a ride. Sometimes they'll eat the algae off of them, so it's just kind of like a sort of symbiotic relationship. Let's see if I can kind of uncover a small one. Here's one of our young ones that we actually got from the National Aquarium in Baltimore, so thank you guys for them. But these guys are really young.
So Abby wants to know how big they are when they're babies. So these guys, what are they? Almost 3?
These guys are almost 3, maybe even 4. They are pretty small. When they're babies, the eggs are only about the size of a pea, maybe even smaller. And when they hatch, they're called larval stages. And it takes several molts for them to grow to a certain size. So they don't actually get their kind of hard crab features until several molts in. This guy's slowly eating.
Vincent, age 3, would like to know, do they live in groups?
Not really. They just kind of trudge along. They're bottom feeders, detritivores, so they just kind of scavenge on the bottom. And they don't really live in groups, but they do congregate in mass when they are breeding. And the main breeding site is up in Delaware, which is a sight to see. There'll be thousands and thousands of horseshoe crabs along the beaches of Delaware trying to breed. So let's give this little guy a break, and we'll go visit one of our other living fossils, the sturgeon. So let me get my tongs and food, and let's go over there. As you can see, the museum's pretty empty. It misses you guys. So for those of you who joined us last week, we're back at our James River exhibit, and it is home to our 4 short-nosed sturgeon. Sturgeon have been around for, I want to say, 30 million years, maybe even more, unchanged. And these guys are short-nosed sturgeon. This is about as large as they get. They're full-grown adults. Not to fall off. And I'm going to put their food, which is cut up different fish fillets. So that's catfish, looks like cod, and then that's smelt. It's all freshwater fish, well, except for cod. I put them on the end of these tongs here so I can target feed the sturgeon. The striped bass and other fish in this tank are pretty feisty and will eat just about anything. Let's try and get one of these guys. So we have to kind of target feed the sturgeon. Oop, missed. There we go. Nope, still missed. So these sturgeon have been at the museum for quite a long time, about 15 years now, maybe less.
How long can a sturgeon get?
How long can a sturgeon get? Well, these sturgeon are as long as they're going to be. They're about 4 feet long. But there are several other species of sturgeon that get even longer. If you want to look up a beluga sturgeon are the largest sturgeon, and they get really long. I don't even know how long, but long as your car.
Atlantic sturgeon get pretty big.
The Atlantic sturgeon get pretty big as well. So you may notice that these sturgeon are along the bottom. They have kind of a soft, fleshy tube mouth that they suck up food with, and then gravel and whatnot will come out of the back of their gills, and they'll only absorb the food. They kind of have what's called a primitive body plan, if you look at their body plan, it's long. They have one single dorsal in the back and this heterocircle or asymmetrical tail. Kind of looks like a shark. If you didn't know what a sturgeon was, you would think it looks like a shark, and that's not too far off actually, but they're not sharks. And for all of you movie fans out there, it's a little trivia. The mermaids in the Harry Potter films were actually inspired by sturgeon. If you look at them again, look at their tails. They're actually sturgeon tails. There's a little fact for you.
Where can you find sturgeon?
Oh. Sturgeon are an anadromous species, meaning they, or at least the Atlantics and shortnose, go from saltwater to freshwater to spawn. So you can find some Atlantic sturgeon coming into the James River towards the middle and end of the summer. These short-nosed sturgeon have actually been basically extinct from Virginia waters for a long time. No one's seen one here for a long time.
Kate,
you can find them up north in lakes and ponds. There's lake sturgeon, there's shovel-nosed sturgeon. They're actually all around the world. There's different sturgeon all across the world.
Kate, age 6, would like to know if they have ears.
They have not ears per se. No, they don't have ears. They kind of hear and feel with a lateral line down their body.
Gray would like to know if they come in different colors.
Yeah, they can come in different colors. These guys are actually, I'm still in the food. They're kind of different colors. This one's a little more brown than the others. Some Atlantic sturgeon are kind of more darker, but they all basically have the same hues of grays and browns and olive colors. They kind of are going to blend in with their environment. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'm running out of food here, so I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thanks again for joining us in our Living Dinosaur segment at the museum here today. I'll also be doing a segment later this afternoon, so join us again at 2:30 this afternoon. And also continue on. This week we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day with our virtual Earth Day week celebration. So keep coming back for some more Earth Day related conservation themed live posts. And thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you this afternoon.